Perfect. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here. It's a pleasure to stand on the grounds of one of the biggest and the most renowned cancer research center in the world. I'm happy to share the knowledge and the information that I bring to you this morning from Europe, based in Washington, D.C. But I, want to thank Sina as well for organizing this workshop, because without him, this would not have been possible. I came to Houston about 3 years ago, and I gave a talk, but it's been quite some time, so I'm very happy to be back and to see many of you interested in European funding opportunities. Can you hear me well? Yeah? Okay, fantastic. So you will be listening to me for maybe about an hour, hour and a half. It might sound a little too long, and I hope you're not going to get bored. If you do, then I'll try to do some dance moves, or maybe we can do some singing, whichever language you prefer. Yeah, hopefully you're going to get a lot of information. It will be fruitful. It will be very interesting. And if you have any questions, if I start speaking a language that you don't understand, please raise your hand, and I will repeat, I will slow down, or I will tell you in more details what I meant by that particular note. Before we start, I would like to get to know you a little bit better. So I want you to raise your hand if you are a PhD candidate. Okay. How about postdocs? How many postdocs do I have in the room? Fantastic. Faculty. Oh, welcome. I wanted to say with this that we have a lot of opportunities for anyone in the room, including PhDs, postdocs, and more experienced researchers. So there's going to be something for each of you that you can take home. And then the last question I'm really curious about, do I have any Europeans in the room? Okay, great. So we have everyone, and that's fantastic, because our opportunities are really open to all nationalities. Doesn't matter where you come from. As Tamara mentioned briefly, I'm going to be following the program. I'm going to be talking a little bit about EURAXESS, so the project I'm managing. So what can you get out of that? What kind of information we offer? Then I'm going to move to the so-called Marie Sklodowska-Curie actions, which are funding opportunities for PhDs, postdocs, and also people that would like to take perhaps a sabbatical leave. And then I will move on to the third program that is called the European Research Council grants, that are the grants for more experienced researchers, for PIs that would like to open their own lab in Europe, either to move there 100% or stay here 50-50. So there are different ways of connecting with European funding. So what is EURAXESS? I know the name can be a little tricky, and it's difficult sometimes to remember. It kind of comes from two words meaning access to Europe. So that's how our marketing agency came up with the word EURAXESS, just to make it, maybe more interesting. But I know it's a little bit harder to pronounce. But, don't worry about that. It's really access to Europe. So that's what EURAXESS stands for. What it is a project that is fully funded by the European Commission. So it is not a funding agency, but we are more of a center that gives information and support services to you guys, to scientists of any nationality and research field that would like to do research in Europe or collaborate with European partners. So I won't be able to give you a check with $100,000, but hopefully I will tell you where to find funding. So we are more of an intermediary in between European funding opportunities and the people that are interested in applying for them. We are quite large as a network. We have European centers and we have non-European centers. Our colleagues in Europe, they do a little bit of a different job than we do outside. Their main job is to welcome you as scientists and help you with practical information. So if you move to a country that is unknown to you, or you're moving to somewhere that you have not been for a while, and you need information about accommodation, about visas, about social security, health insurance, where your spouse might find a job. So we do have those services for free for anyone that wants to go to any of the European countries, because we are present in all 40 countries of Europe, so you will be able to find that piece of information basically anywhere. And then we have, as I call it, an international arm of EURAXESS, which is the EURAXESS Worldwide Network. We are based in 6 non-European countries. You can find us in Japan, in China, India, Brazil, ASEAN, and North America. So those are the places where I have colleagues, but I'll tell you a little bit more what we do. This is the structure of EURAXESS, as you can see on this slide. We have 4 pillars or 4 parts of the big one-stop shop project, as we like to call ourselves. So you have EURAXESS in the middle. One of the most important parts of our project and our aim is to have a job database. So we have been working on a job database for the past 10 years, and we have been really developing it for a long time in order for you to go online and search for a particular job that you're interested in research, science, innovation, technology in Europe. So our portal is very large. It has a lot of opportunities for PhDs, postdocs, research administrators, for more experienced researchers in any type of field that you can imagine. So starting from life sciences to social sciences, arts, humanities. So we really encompass all the different scientific domains that you can think of. I'll show you a slide how the website looks like, so you get a little bit of a better feel what you can find online. Then, as I mentioned, we have a part called Information and Assistance. Those are the European centers helping you with the practical information. So let's say you're moving to the Netherlands, and you don't know if you need visa, if you're especially a non-European scientist, if you're bringing your family along, where are your kids going to go to school? Do I need a language course? Do I need to register for my taxes, or do I need social security? So these are the people that will help you solve all those problems. Each country has their own website. So there's EURAXESS Netherlands, there's EURAXESS Poland, there's EURAXESS Germany. So you just click on the website on the particular country that you are going to, you send them an email, and then you kind of start a communication about everything that you need. And then one of the other parts that is interesting is the rights. That's especially for those that are non-Europeans. We cover a lot of information about visas, about long-term permits for people that are non-Europeans and that would like to come for especially longer than 3 months. So what kind of visas, what kind of long-term permits Europe offers. So that's also a website that you can check out if you want that information. But if I were you, I would just go directly to the service centers and ask them about the status, about the type of visa you need to apply for, or your family members for that matter. Because, the rights section, you will find a lot of European overall information, but if you ask the centers themselves, they can give you the country-specific little details. So I think I would do that. And then last but not least, as I mentioned, we have the worldwide arm of EURAXESS, and I will also talk about that a little bit later. So this is, as I promised, a screenshot of the EURAXESS jobs portal. We have revamped our website a couple months ago, so finally it's nicer looking and hopefully as well more user-friendly than it was before, and it has a lot more information on the website than we had in the past. So what you can find, you see you go to the jobs and funding on the top, and you can basically start your search. By jobs, we mean, as I mentioned, not only the jobs that are funded by the country or by the institution, but there are funds also coming from international sources or from other European funding sources. So you can find a lot of information. To give you an idea, we usually have between 6,000 to 8,000 job vacancies available per day. So it is really large because we cover all the European countries and we cover all the scientific domains. So that's why, and different stages of career. So that's why the website is very large. But don't worry, you can really narrow down your search. You can choose a country, for example. You can choose a specific field of research or an institution that you want to go to, and that's how then you narrow down your search and you will get more specific information. If you don't want to do that on the daily basis, you can also register on the website. You can log in, you can create a researcher profile, as we call it. You can upload your CV, and you can tick the boxes what information you are interested in, what kind of research field or what kind of job vacancy you want to apply for. So then on the website, you will tick all those boxes, and then you will be receiving emails whenever there is a new job that comes up or whenever there's a new opportunity that matches your interest. So you can also do that. And it's completely free of charge. So basically, you don't need to pay any fee. Now I want to jump into EURAXESS Worldwide, and tell you why I'm here and what I do and what kind of information I can provide to you. So if you want to look for us, you need to go to the EURAXESS Worldwide button. And then click EURAXESS North America, because as I mentioned, there are several of other countries that are a part of our network. So here you can sign up and also become a member of our community. And with this, I wanted to also tell you that we have those flash notes that you might have perhaps heard while you were registering. And it would be really good for you guys to be on it, because with the flash notes, we really give you additional funding opportunities and information on something that you would not find on the website, or you would have to search for a long time to find that information. So what we do, one objective of EURAXESS North America is to talk to scientists, to research organizations, to universities, to European, non-European scientists about what is available out there. So we talk about individual fellowships, about grants, about partnering options with European universities. We offer information about hosting. Hosting meaning if there is a university in Spain, in Portugal, in any other European country that would like to host a fellow, then we put it in our flash notes on our website, and we send it out to the people that are interested in spending some time in Europe. So one of the main objectives of us being here based in Washington, D.C. is to come out and talk to you. And of course, we cannot be everywhere because we are responsible for the whole region of US and Canada. So we try to involve a lot of social media and websites. So that's where the flash notes come in. We make them twice a month. And in the flash note, what we do, we look at research funding organizations in Europe, so from Austria all the way to the UK, and we look for additional funding opportunities that are not only available by the EU funding, but by the member state funding. So to kind of give you an idea, the EU funding, we're going to talk about that, it has only 10% of all the funds that flow into R&D within the European research area. So the 90% of the money is still kept within the member states. And that's what we look for. Those are the opportunities that we put in our flash notes, and then we send it out to you so you can see, what else is out there. So there's a lot of information. But at least you can choose and pick if there is anything that you are interested in. I think I have yes. This is a screenshot. It's very small. It's not anything that I want you to remember from the specific slide, but this is just to give you an idea how our flash notes look like. So then we put funding opportunities and we list the latest, as you can see on this one. So from different countries. So here, for example, you have Poland, Sweden, Germany, Denmark, Switzerland, Czech Republic. So you have different countries that are offering specific additional funding opportunities, and then we put for whom, what kind of field, for how long, the deadline, of course, and then the website where you can find more information. So this is when I say the flash note, and if you want to sign up for that, so then on the sign up sheet there's a box that you can tick, and then we'll be happy to put you on our mailing list. And you can always unsubscribe if you don't like us anymore. And another objective that EURAXESS has before I jump into all the funding opportunities is take care of our European scientific diaspora in North America. And I wanted to show this also to everyone that is non-European, because I wanted to show you that we have a platform here in North America where we connect the Europeans together, but also what we do, we hold workshops and networking events, not only for Europeans, but for non-Europeans that are, of course, interested in different career development topics. So obviously including funding opportunities. And now we are going to have a European Research Day in September, which will focus on mentoring. So we are going to bring in experts and we'll talk about mentorship. And it's open to anyone that is interested in collaborating with Europe or maybe has had already some experience with European funding or with European countries. So we do have a platform. So my Europeans, if you are not part of that, please do let me know, and I'll be happy to also include you into this conversation. Okay, so now I will jump into the big program that the EU has for research and innovation. It's called Horizon 2020. It's the biggest program in the world for research and innovation, currently for 7 years between 2014 and 2020, having almost $80 billion flowing into the program. So I wanted to start with this in terms of the funding opportunities, because then we'll break it down into several pillars so you can see, you know, what kind of opportunities there are for you and what is applicable to you as an individual or an institution for that matter. I want to also stress here that Horizon 2020 is open to the world, meaning it's not only, it's European money, it comes from the European taxpayers' money, so obviously we'll have to involve Europe in one way or another, but in terms of partners, in terms of scientists applying for funds, it's really open. So we welcome international collaboration, we welcome international submissions, because we want to do good research. We want to do excellent research, and we cannot do it ourselves in Europe. We need your help. We need people that are going to collaborate with us, and we can make the world better and healthier. Just one slide on the rules of participation. There are two ways how you can be engaged and involved in Horizon 2020. One way is to become a collaborative partner, and the other way is to apply for fellowships or grants as an individual. So I here in North America, I focus on the individual fellowship. So that's what we are going to be talking about today a lot. So I will walk you through what kind of individual opportunities there are. But in case you would like to do a collaborative project with Europeans, Horizon 2020 offers a lot of opportunities. So for that, as you can see, this is for the collaborative and this is for the individual fellowships. For the collaborative, the minimum principle is you need to have 3 European countries in order to be part of a consortium. And then American partner can be 4th or 5th or 6th or 20th or 25th. It doesn't matter. There is no upper scale. There is only the minimum. And they have to be from 3 different countries. And in terms of who, any legal entity established in Europe. So it can be a private sector, it can be a hospital, a nonprofit, it can be a university. So really anyone that you would like to work on a project with. In terms of funding for the collaborative projects, the European partners, of course, they always get funding because they contribute to the common pot. But then we have industrialized and developing countries. So the industrialized countries, including US, Canada, Brazil, Singapore, etc., those are the countries that are not automatically funded because of the status. But on the other hand, there are exceptions how the American partner can be funded depending on the topic, on the specific project that you have to work on. So if your participation is so important without which a project cannot work out or cannot be successful, then you are eligible for funding. And because we are in the grounds of MD Anderson, I'm very happy to share this with you. We have one area where we have an agreement between the EU and the US, and that's health. And if you do a project within the health research area and the project is successful, the US partner will get funding. So I cannot say it's for the folks that are dealing with nanomaterials or transport or climate change for now, but within the health area, this is the only agreement that the EU has with the US where, if successful, you can get funding. On the other hand, the individual fellowships are a little bit easier or more straightforward, because if you are successful with your project, no matter what your nationality is, no matter what country you come from, you will get 100% funded. So that's the difference between them. Yes?
What do you mean by success? Like, how is that defined?
Yeah, so you have to go through the evaluation process of the EU. So they're all peer-reviewed projects, a peer-reviewed evaluation. So basically, you know, if within the collaborative project you are successful, so you meet all the criteria, and the evaluators are going to choose your project as successful, then you know, it can get or doesn't have to get funded. But within the Marie Curie, the process or the individual fellowship, the process is very similar. So evaluation, criteria, and then if you're successful, then you get funding 100%, no matter where you come from. Yes?
For the
Sorry.
Thank you. For the collaborative research projects, when you say 3 different participants, are you talking institutional wide? Do the 3 institutions need to cooperate in a big project, or is it 3 individuals from 3 institutions?
Yes. So for the collaborative projects, the system is a little bit different compared to the individual fellowships. So for the collaborative projects, you have specific topics that you need to apply for. The individuals are bottom up. It's up to you. It's your own project, your own idea. But with the collaborative, there are specific topics and there are specific calls. And then you have to create a consortium, and you will be working on a specific project together with European partners. So in terms of the institution, as you said, they have to be 3 different countries. So you can have Germany, Poland, Switzerland. And then within those countries, you can have many institutions. You can have as many as you want to. But the 3 countries minimum, they have to be part of the bigger group. And then you can be the 4th, for example. Does that answer your question? Okay.
If I may follow up real quick on this question here, is there a guideline to the participation of these collaborators? Because collaboration can come in many forms. They can be a huge part of your project, or just they're giving you a plasmid, so they're a collaborator. Would that be a checked box, or it needs to be a very big collaboration?
So I'm going to show you a little bit the pillars of what we are talking about, and I don't have the slide, I think, on the collaborative project, but within the collaborative we are talking big. We are talking about societal challenges. We are talking about really topics that are globally concerning, and they can be climate change, they can be smart cities, they can be cancer research, it can be you know, something in nanomedicine as well. So usually within the collaborative projects, if you get to that point, the consortia are large. So I've seen anything between 8 to 35 partners from around the world. So, you know, it kind of depends how big the idea is. Like also, for example, we are funding partially the BRAIN initiative. So that's also part of the funding comes from the collaborative side of Horizon 2020. So yes, usually the ideas are larger.
I can share, hello. I can share, I am recipient of 2 Horizons grants. So for example, we can, 3 labs join our efforts in one project. 1 lab in Belgium, 1 lab in University of Turin, Italy. So we are able to host students. For example, Alicia came from University of Turin to perform project here. So it's simply, you can set up project, provide, for example, lipid asymmetry. what we are working on. So you can write proposal, and if you're getting this project, you're able to host students or postdoc. And for 2-3 months, but major problem I am facing during the last 8 years is how to host students. So because money is still limited. For example, you are saying correct, but US part also can get money. But however, it's very difficult to justify. European countries, who are part of this consortium, they can get money much easily. But problem is, for example, if students coming for 3 months or half year or 1 month, and it's very difficult to find place to stay where the student can stay, because short-term lease is very expensive, like $1,500 or $1,500 a month. So it's a major problem how to host students. So, and for example, if it's Rice University or University in Houston can provide their dorms for summer, it will be much easier and much cheaper. So, but however, this program is great, and it's allowed to join effort from several countries. So I'm totally supporting this idea and enjoying for 8 years already this.
Yeah, thank you for your comment, and thank you for being here. So we can ask questions and from you later.
I just need to add oh, please go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry, I wanted to follow up on the question about individuals or
Yes.
grants at the individual level. How exactly were they evaluated? Because I wasn't clear on how you answered it. Is it based on their preliminary studies or the merit of their proposal? I mean, this is particularly difficult for early career scientists or doctoral candidates. So just how exactly are they evaluated for potential for success?
I have a lot of slides ahead of us, and I will be talking about the evaluation. So if you hold on for a little bit, then that's basically almost the last part of the presentation, because we'll go through what, how, and then we'll do evaluation. But I will try to answer your question through your slide as much as possible. Yes.
So very, very brief point I would like to add. Wiki is like covering the European Union perspective. If you go to individual member states, each one of those countries have their own research councils and their own calls for grants. For example, if you go to like Denmark, my past experience, I checked their recent call, and they are offering, for example, 1-year fellowships to those from United States who have NSF grant or NSF fellowship. Or you could, as long as a Danish institute hosts you and your project, you can justify getting grant from Danish Research Council and do as much as you like of your project outside of Denmark. At the end, the patent and papers are published for the Danish Institute, but you have spent your time in the United States. If, for example, you're a grad student or postdoc, your ultimate career goal is to stay in the United States, this way you can get the grants, particularly internationals who are very limited to get grants in the United States. You can get the grant from one of those European countries and maintain your network and follow up with your career planning in the United States.
Yeah, thank you, Sina. Yeah, exactly. There are plenty of other opportunities by the member states, and then we try to bring it closer to you through the flash notes. And of course, they're not exhaustive. There are many more, but at least you kind of have an idea what kind of research councils, what kind of universities are looking for people to collaborate with. So let us move on to the next slide, which tells you the 3 priorities under Horizon 2020. And this is now for the 7-year period. This is a program that has been going on since the 60s. So it's not something that just came up all of a sudden. It has been part of the EU for many years. And we are, as of next year, we are already going to draft the next, we call it a framework program. This is number 8. And then there will be number 9 from 2021. So, it's a continuous flow into funding research, innovation development within the EU and worldwide. So we have the 3 priorities. First is called Excellent Science. The money that you see is for the period of 7 years that flows into the program. Then we have Industrial Leadership, and we have Societal Challenges. And what I will be focusing on today is the Excellent Science pillar. And the collaborative projects are mainly under societal challenges and industrial leadership. But as you know, we don't have that much time. We can talk about it maybe another time, or you can contact me and we can go deeper in that. The Excellent Science pillar has 4 different sub-pillars, as you can see on the slide. The first, European Research Council grants, we'll talk about those. Future and Emerging Technologies, those are not individual fellowships, so I will not go into those. And then the Marie Sklodowska-Curie actions, we will talk about those fellowships. And then the last one are big E infrastructures that are not individual fellowships either. Those are more collaborative projects, again, involving Europe and the rest of the world. So I will jump into the Marie Sklodowska-Curie actions, and I'll walk you through what kind of opportunities there are, and I will talk specifically about 2 actions that are very interesting, I think, to this audience. And if there's anything that then you want to ask later on, or I am not going to go into details, we can always, talk about it. I'll be here until the end of the week, so if you want to go for coffee, we can do that. So has anyone heard about the Marie Curie actions? Fantastic. Has anyone applied? You did what? Twice. Yeah. And it wasn't, or it was? It was. Okay, fantastic. Okay, congratulations then. So we have an experienced Marie Curie fellow here. Did you go to Europe, or you came to the US?
I'm hosting here. I'm presenting a lab in US.
You are hosting here a global fellow.
Hosting and training for.
Okay, fantastic. So the objective of Marie Curie, or Marie Sklodowska-Curie, as our Polish friends would like to give me that power to call her, it's really a program for individuals that would like to do a fellowship in Europe for shorter or longer time, but also it does allow people to come to non-European countries, now specifically to the US. So there are options where you can go either way, actually. So that's something that only, I would say, this fellowship from the EU offers. We have a budget of about 6 million euros that flows into, it's 6 billion, I'm sorry, there's a mistake, because that's for 7 years, 6 billion euros for 7 years within the Marie Curie actions. And we are really proud to say that we are already celebrating the 20th anniversary of this particular program, and already over 100,000 fellows have been supported by the Marie Curie actions. What are the key advantages, or why you would like to apply for a fellowship like that? Why you would like to be involved and interested? So I mentioned that at the beginning we have 2 ways of being part of Horizon 2020. One is collaborative, the other one is individual. The collaborative, there are specific calls and topics that you have to look for, but with individual fellowships, it's always a completely bottom-up approach, meaning that you are going to be writing your own project. You will have to come up with your own topic. We're not going to tell you what to do, and because Horizon 2020 is open to all different scientific domains, you can really come up with your own excellent idea and your own project. Of course, you're going to need a supervisor, you're going to need someone to host you, but basically you as an individual will be going through the process of writing the proposal. We'll talk about the calls and the evaluation as well. One of the important things is the mobility. Mobility meaning within the Marie Curie actions, you have to be mobile, you have to move. So because we are in the US, you would be moving to Europe for some time. But then, as I mentioned, there are also possibilities for Europeans to come to the US and be hosted through the Marie Curie actions, through the Marie Curie funding. So we will then distinguish in between the European and the global fellowships. So mobility is really key aspect of the fellowship. The innovation part, I want to stress, because we are here at the university level, you can basically collaborate. Your host institution in Europe can be anything that matches your career goals. So it can be, again, from academia, from industry, can be university, nonprofit, it can be a museum, a hospital. So really anything that will help you further your career during those years that you will be spending at the institution. Now, there are two types of scientists or two types of researchers that can be part of the Marie Curie fellowships, particularly the individual ones. One is, as we call them, the early stage researchers. Those are those that do not have a PhD or have less than 4 years of research experience. And the other category of researchers are so-called experienced one. Those are the researchers that have a PhD or at least 4 years of full-time research experience. So if you have an MD, you're not going to fall into the category of the PhD holder, but you're going to fall under the category of at least 4 years of full-time research experience. Yes?
Is there a top bracket for the experienced researchers? Yeah, like
No,
4
that-
years up to something? No.
Yeah. So that's the good thing about this. For experienced researcher, there's a bottom line, but there is no top line. So, you know, the sky's the limit, as we call it. So I've seen personally people that have applied and they have received a fellowship. They were anywhere in between 25 to 65 in terms of age and experience as well.
I was going to add to that. Is there then a consideration when you receive a postdoc application and that individual has had 2 years to develop a project versus a senior PI who has had 20? Is there a consideration? Those projects are going to look different in the application.
Yes, there is a consideration, and that's good about the evaluation process of all the projects you know, submitted to Horizon 2020. So if you have an experience of 4 years and someone comes with 10 or 8 or 7, they do separate them internally. So then people are looking at a very similar projects and they're comparing them together, so it's fair and very transparent. So that's definitely a good point for all the projects. So just remember the two types of categories, the experienced and then the early stage. Now, where can you go? If you are here or anywhere outside Europe, you are able to go to all the European countries that you can see on the slide. So obviously we have the 28 member states. Yes, still the UK is here. Although, you know, they are trying to get away from us, but we still love them. You know, that question might have come up, so I'm just gonna, you know, answer the elephant in the room. The negotiations for Brexit have started, as you might have heard. It doesn't mean that they're out yet. Because this is the first time in the history of the European Union. We have never dealt with an exiting country before, so the process is going to be a little bit lengthy, and it's going to be cumbersome because, you know, everything has to be done the first time. So we assume that the negotiations are going to last between 1 to 2 years. While the negotiations last, the UK is an eligible member of the EU with no changes. So if you want to go to the UK on the fellowship that, you know, starts next year, you can still go. Or if you want to apply this year, you can still apply. So until there is a final end of the negotiations, the UK is considered as an EU member. Of course, they will always be Europeans, but, you know, the EU might offer them, of course, more opportunities, and then it will depend on the negotiations, you know, how well we are going to get along after that. So UK, still within the EU. And then we have the so-called associated countries to Horizon 2020. Those are the other European countries that are not EU, if, you know, the terminology might be a little bit confusing, but we have the European Union and the rest and the other European countries. But you can apply for the Marie Curie fellowships and the ERC as well to all these about 40 European countries. So as you can see, within the associated countries, you have Switzerland, you have Norway, you have Turkey. So you have also the European countries that have a lot of funding available, but they're not EU members, but are associated. So you can go to all of those. Now, give you an idea between the EU and the US, how many researchers. These are data from 2016, so we don't have the very, very latest yet. But in about a period of 2 years, we had about a little over 100 researchers from the US that went to the EU, and then almost 200 researchers coming from Europe to the US. So there's a flow. There is quite a large number of scientists that are moving in between the EU and the US. Now, what kind of pillars or what kind of opportunities there are within the Marie Curie? Because there is not only one, but as you can see, there are 4 different pillars of the Marie Curie actions. And what we are going to talk about today are the first 2, our IF and then the RISE. I'm not going to focus on the ITN and the co-fund, just because we don't have as many audience here for that, but I can tell you more later if you're interested. Just to tell you, ITNs are for PhD students. So if you know someone who would like to do a full PhD in Europe, that would be the perfect program to apply for. I will start with RISE, so Research Innovation Staff Exchange. I have about 2-3 slides on that, and then we will go into the individual fellowships that are, I think, the most interesting for you guys today. So within the RISE, I wanted to give you an idea specifically for those that are not looking for the individual fellowships, and it can be a little confusing, and I don't blame you for that. It took me a while to understand. So RISE is a little collaborative project. So it's not that much of an individual applying for a fellowship, but here you have to have a consortium. Okay, you have to have a group of countries. And it's the same as we had seen before, 3 European countries, and then the US partner can be the 4th. What's very nice about these projects is that the US has been very successful. The success rate for the US was over 25%. So that's a really, really large number. So that's why I'm telling you about this opportunity. The budget is not large. If you can see, it's only 80 million for 2017. So this is not going to be covering your salary. So this is mainly for travel, for per diems, and a little bit of research costs. So that's why, these are ideal projects to get together with the European partners to exchange staff and to, find out who you want to collaborate with, who are the right people I want to work with in the future, and perhaps this can be kind of a starting point for a bigger collaborative project under societal challenges. So I like to look at them from that angle. Of course, the funding, the financial principle is exactly the same. So the US partner might not get funding, so they would have to bring their own funding to the table, but the European partners, they do get funding. So within here, just to give you an idea, the project can be for 4 years, okay? You pick your subject. Okay, so we're not going to tell you what you want. We want you to work on. You pick your own subject. Then you look for 2-3 partners. Here the consortia are smaller. The average is 6-7 partners per project. So it doesn't go on to, it can go until 2025, but it's not like the big collaborative projects that I mentioned before. So here you can have a smaller consortium, 4, 5, 6 countries. And then you work on a project together, and basically the European partners get funding to come over to spend time at your institution. And those are short-term stays between 4 and 12 months. 1 to 12 months. And those can be divided into those 4 years as you want. So for first year, someone can come for a month, then the second year, someone can come for 2 months. And they get the funding for travel, for accommodation, for per diem. So you don't have to, give them basically anything, just a space where they can be with you and then collaborate on something for a short term. On the other hand, if you want to go over to Europe and you are part of a consortium, you will not get specifically funding that will come to the US, but the European partner can, try somehow to get that funding from their end and then pay your accommodation or pay something for your stay while you are going to be in Europe. So there are ways that they can host you over there. It really depends on an agreement, really depends on how you, arrange and agree on the specific terms of the project. So, these are nice ways to really get to know the people, go and spend some time, they come and spend some time and really work together and see if you want to perhaps apply for something bigger. So this is the essence of the RISE. In terms of staff, like what kind of people can go? Anybody who is involved in the project: researchers, entrepreneurs, research administrators, doctors, technicians. So anyone who has been employed by their home institution for at least 6 months. And you don't even have to name them in the project. You can name them later, so that's also something nice. So this is a recap of what I just talked about. So you can see here the staff funded by the EU grant. So it's taken as a secondment, as we call it in the EU jargon. A graph to show you how the US partners have been successful for the calls of 2014 and 2015. So you can see out of the non-European partners, the US is by far the biggest participant in the RISE projects, and they have been successful. I don't know if you see the colors. The blue color, the largest one, is showing the higher education institutions. So those are the universities that have been mainly part of the projects. But then also we have the orange is the research organizations, the green is the private for-profit institutions, and then the rest, other public or private bodies. So this is about, as I said, a 25% success rate for the US specifically. Okay. So now we are going to talk about the individual fellowships, the second pillar of the Marie Curie actions. These are, again, amazing fellowships. Mobility has to be included into your fellowship, of course, as I mentioned. And there is one mobility rule that I don't have on the slide. So the countries that I showed you, the European countries, you can go to any of them. But the rule is you cannot go to a country where you have been living or working for more than 12 months in the past 3 years. And that we count from the deadline of the call. So if you've been, for example, in France for more than 12 months in the past 3 years, France would not be eligible. You have to go to another country. Okay? The deadline, the call deadlines are always September, so that would be then the time that we would count those months. So the individual fellowships are for experienced researchers, if you remember the two categories that I showed you. Here you have to have a PhD or at least 4 years of research experience. No ceiling. In terms of types of these fellowships, we have two. We have the European fellowships and we have the global fellowships. The European fellowships are for you going to Europe, and the global fellowships are for a postdoc or for a researcher from any European institution come to the US. So this is where you can host a researcher at your lab with no cost because it will be funded by the EU Marie Curie program. The European fellowships are for the duration of 1 to 2 years. So sometimes if you want to take a sabbatical leave for a year, you can actually apply for a European individual fellowship. But if you want to stay longer, 2 years is the max. When it comes to the global fellowships, so someone coming to the US, it's 1 to 2, 3 years. Meaning that the person coming here can stay between 1 to 2 years max, and then they have something called a return phase. They have to go back to Europe for the 3rd year of their fellowship, which is also fully funded by the Marie Curie Actions. So if someone wants to stay for more than 2 years, that's not going to be possible. They have to go back, but then, after the 3rd year, they are free. So they can come back, or they can go anywhere they would like to. So the European Fellowship doesn't require you to come back, but the Global Fellowship requires the individual to go back to Europe. Now, I wanted to talk a little bit about the reintegration panel and the career restart panel, because basically, again, we cover all scientific domains. As I said, that we have anything from life sciences to arts and humanities. So basically, it's a bottom-up approach, and that's how then we have the evaluation panels divided into several ones that I will show you in a minute. But we have some panels that are a little bit more specific. The reintegration panel is for European citizens or European long-term residents. And because I have a few Europeans in the room, I wanted to just spend a slide on telling you that this is something that is applicable to you. The only difference in between the normal individual fellowship and the reintegration panel is basically the mobility rule, which is a little bit different. So it's not 1 year in 3 years, but it's 3 years in 5 years. So that's the only difference. Otherwise, the criteria are the same. The panels are the different. You can choose between scientific panels. It's a multidisciplinary panel for the reintegration grant. So basically, you will be evaluated by the best experts in your field, but it just, called the reintegration panel with the difference of the mobility rule. Now, when we get into the proposal writing of the Marie Curie, and then we are going to also get into the evaluation, I'm not going to go too much into details, but I wanted to give you an idea how it looks like. So the proposal structure has an A and the B. The A are administrative forms that you have to fill in, and then the part B is going to be your actual proposal. Yes?
Can you go into some more detail about what the success rate and the number of applicants for reintegration and just general individual fellowships are?
Yes. So in terms of success rate, there is, I wish I could say that it's better to apply for a reintegration panel than just a normal scientific panel, but the success rate is it's very, very similar. It's between 10 to 12%. For all the individual fellowships, no matter what panel you apply for. So with the actual proposal, as you can see that your proposal cannot be longer than 10 pages. So this is, I was told, quite a short proposal, because you have to fit into 3 main evaluation criteria, and that is excellence, impact, and implementation. And on my next slide, basically, you will see the list of all these criteria that the Marie Curie evaluators are going to look at. Obviously, in terms of the difference in between them, the weighing, the excellence part has the 50%, the impact has 30%, and then the implementation has 20%. But I really want to put an emphasis on the fact that it's not good to spend 90% of your time on the excellence part and then leave a little bit of time for the rest, because all of them are equally important at the end of the day. They are part of your proposal, and you have to really make an effort in writing all those 3 parts. And because the proposal is only 10 pages long, and if you have a 1-page summary and a 1-page conclusion, it leaves you with 8 pages for all 3 parts of the proposal. So what I usually tell to people, if you have never seen a proposal, if you've never seen a guide for applicants, I really urge you actually to go online and look for the national contact points, because in every single European country there is something called the Marie Curie National Contact Point, and they're the people that are trained specifically to tell you more information, especially the hints and tips for how to write a proposal, what kind of words to use, what kind of phrases to include, because these are European fellowships, so the evaluators are going to be looking for specific phrases that they want you to put into your proposal, even though you would say a sentence, the same thing as they would think you are supposed to put into the proposal, but you are not using that word that they are looking for. Honestly. So these NCPs, they have, they do workshops, they do webinars, and they have presentations online. And they really do give excellent tips about the specific, little details that you might not think of while writing your proposal. But those are so helpful that you can really get a lot of information out of those PowerPoints. Yes.
Yeah, again, I'd like to share my experience in writing of successful
Sure.
proposal. So, from my experience, if you'd like to write successful proposal, you have to share, to complement your experience with new experience. For example, you were trained as a wet lab scientist, biochemist or molecular biologist. You'd like to explore dry lab science, like molecular dynamic simulation. This kind of proposals are very welcome there. So you try to extend your knowledge to wet lab sciences, as a dry lab sciences. This kind of, besides wording, I agree, wording is important, but this kind of interface, proposal on interface are very welcome there. For example, you train in the US as a wet lab scientist, you can find university lab which can help you to simulate your biochemical data. This kind of proposal are very welcome.
Yeah, thank you. No, it's true that the Marie Curie fellowships are really focusing on career development. So they want to see that within those 2 years, you are going to advance as a researcher. And they want to see that you are going to choose the right host institution for yourself, because you're the only one who is going to do that. And because it's quite a lot of money, and these are prestigious fellowships, the host institution is also evaluated. Okay, so you have to really sit down and think about that. Who is the best person for me to work with? What is the best lab? What is the best institution? And I probably didn't stress it on my previous slide, but so within those 2 years, you will have a host institution. But you can also do something called a secondment for 3 to 6 months. So you can choose another institution within Europe, be it private or public, and you can spend some time in their lab, you can spend some time in their office. So this is something new that has not been part of the previous programs. So you can actually do, an additional experience in another country or in another lab within the same country. So that's also something to keep in mind. So when we come to the evaluation, I wanted to show you that there are the 8 panels basically covering all the different areas of research, science, innovation. And then we have, the reintegration panel and the career restart panel, which are multidisciplinary. So whenever you apply to that particular panel, they will choose the right evaluator for you. You choose your panel through the application process. So you are the one who chooses which panel you think your proposal should be evaluated by. What is very nice is that the budget for the call of the individual fellowships is not distributed before the call is closed. So for example, if there is a budget of 200 million euros for the call, and then they're receiving thousands of applications for different panels, they divide the budget after the call is closed so they can distribute it equally and evenly depending on the number of applications. Your proposal is looked at by at least 3 evaluators. So they are peer-reviewed, and they can be based in Europe or anywhere in the world. And if I'm talking about evaluators, you can become yourself evaluators as well. So if you feel like you want to do an evaluation process and you want to be part of that, you can, because the EU is always looking for evaluators. And then on the website, you can, you see they're looking for experts. And you can kind of see, from the back stage what is really going on, and then what are the evaluators requested to do, and how to evaluate the proposal. So that's also an option that I wanted to throw out.
Quick question. So with the panels, each group, will they each pick based upon the total number of, are they delegated number of selections based upon the volume of applications, or is each one given, okay, you get to pick 3 in your field, 3 here, 3, or is it calculated based upon how many? So if let's say that chemistry got 50% more applications than any of the other ones, will they have the right to then select more, and award more, or no?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you really get a lot of applications within one of the panels, so there will be more funding going to that particular panel. Yeah. That's why they don't want to say that, you get 10%, 20, 30 at the beginning, because we don't know how many applications and in which panels they are going to be. And here, once you get the slides, so you're going to get them later, here is the contact points that I was talking about. So those are really the people that can help you check the eligibility criteria. They can check, the administrative forms, and they're present in every single European country. So if you're going to Sweden, or you're going to Italy, then you go on the NCP for Italy and you ask them the questions, because they are really, really, really helpful. So I definitely encourage you to contact them. A few slides about the preparation. Again, of course, you have to have a European host institution. So you know that by now. Again, it can be from the private or academic sector. You have to have a supervisor. You have to have someone who you're going to work with. So, make sure that that person is going to be the right for you. So pick and choose wisely. And then consider the secondment options, as I mentioned. You don't have to, within your application, the good thing is you don't have to enter where you want to go for a secondment if you don't know. During the application process. But you can say you are interested and you want to go, and then you can basically choose your institution at a later stage. So that's also something that gives you a little bit of a flexibility in terms of choosing the right institution. The call is open, so we are really, really at a good time here. The guide for applicants is published. So the guide for applicants is going to be your Bible for the next couple of months. It is a couple tens of pages of a document. It's very clear. It really gives you so much information about the panels, about the way they would like you to focus on your application. So it does give you a lot of details. It's going to be probably a long read, but it's really, really worth it. And you have to go through the read of the applicant guide. And then you have also the financial guide, and you have other documents that you can download from the call website. So now the timeline. The call opened for the individual fellowships in April. The deadline is on the 14th of September 2017. So here we have 2.5 months still for you to consider applying for an individual fellowship, a European, or if you want to host someone here in the US, you can also think about that if you've already had perhaps some collaboration before. So this is really still a good time for you to prepare a good, solid application with an excellent idea, with a great project. So if we were like half a month out and you haven't started, I would say don't even do that. The calls are open every year, approximately the same time. So the next one, 2018, will open again in April, and again the deadline will be sometime in September. So you have time to think about that. What I want to draw your attention to is the length between an application deadline and the first possible start date. Those are 8 months in between. So even if it's a 2017 call, you can officially start only in 2018. So as you can see, the first possible start date is May 2018. And maybe you're wondering what this is, the last possible start date. We are trying to be flexible as much as possible, especially for those that are finishing something right now and you are just not able to start exactly in May. You cannot start earlier, but you can start later. There's a 12 months gap in between the first and the last possible start date of your fellowship. So you can start, the latest is May 2019. So it kind of gives you, perhaps if you're thinking about that and you're still working on something, you can decide when you would like to start. And I believe I have the finances as the last slide of the MCA. There you go. So for the individual fellowship, on your right-hand side is the amount that goes to the fellow. And on your left-hand side is the amount that goes to the host institution. Again, depending where the host institution is, either in Europe or in the US, those costs can be shared. These are a monthly, I don't know if you can see them clearly, but the living allowance, meaning your salary, your remuneration for a month, is approximately 4,600 euros. This is a brutto amount, so it will be taxed, and you will also get your social security and health insurance from there. If you have not been to Europe or you don't know the systems in Europe, every country has a different percentage for social security, health insurance, taxation. In some countries it's lower, in some countries are higher. Usually the Scandinavian countries have a very high percentage of taxes and social security, and then the other countries have a little bit less. So it kind of depends what you choose. On top of that, you're going to get something called mobility allowance, which is additional 600 euros a month. That's going to be given to you no matter what. You can use it for conferences, for workshops, you can travel home, so you can use it wisely because you'll be getting it every month. Then there's something called a family allowance. It's another 500 euros on top of your salary, and that's if you have a spouse or dependent children. Even if they don't travel with you, if they stay in the US, you are eligible to receive that allowance. And with the RISE, remember the Research Innovation Staff Exchange, the consortium, there is a possibility to get a 2,000 euro top-up allowance, but that's usually for European scientists. And then, as you can see, this is a lot larger because they will be getting the travel out of that budget. The calls, again, we talked about them already. So the IF is open. The RISE is closed for now, for 2017. The deadline is usually April, and it opens in December. So we assume that for next year, the RISE call will open December 2017, and then in April 2018, it will close. The work program will come out in September this year, so that's when we are going to know all the calls for 2018, 19, and 20. Okay. Yes.
Since this is this through the Horizon 2020 stuff? Okay, so you said you're working on the budget or the next plan, the next 6-7 year plan. Do you expect that similar programs for both the Marie Curie fellowships and these types of individual fellowships, do you expect them to be reinstated in the next 7-year plan?
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Especially the Marie Curie has been part of the big program since they've started. So it's been a continuous, and I don't see any change in that. Hopefully, they will get more funding, but it will definitely stay for the next 9th framework program from 2021, and then the ERC, the same thing.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Yes.
Do you have to travel to use the mobility grant and then do individualized fellowship?
So for the Marie Sklodowska-Curie individual fellowships, the European ones, you as a scientist, you have to go to Europe and spend 100% of your time over there.
Right, but the mobility monthly 600 euros a
Yes.
month, do you have to use that specifically for travel, or is it given to you for whatever you need?
No, no, no. I mean, if you want to go to the next town for a workshop or, yeah, I mean, it doesn't, you will get it.
It's not use it or lose it, or
Yeah,
you have
exactly.
to-
No,
it's
no,
a
no,
bookmark
no.
just for
It's
travel. Okay.
you're getting it. It's something you might not get a family allowance because you might not qualify, but for the mobility allowance, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So for the secondment, you mentioned that you don't have to specify what you want to do your secondment on when you're preparing your proposal. So what do you just need to tick a box saying that you're intending to do it, or do you have to, or is it something you can apply for while you're under the fellowship already? How does it work?
Yeah, you definitely have to specify that you want to go on a secondment in the application process already. So they will have an idea that, you know, you would like to do that mobility in between perhaps sectors or in between countries or institutions. But yeah, if you don't know exactly where you would like to go, you can specify that at a later stage when you are successful, and then, you know, the project actually goes through.
So that's not something that's taken into account during the evaluation of the proposal?
No. That's kind of giving you more flexibility in terms of, you know, giving that later stage decision on your secondment. The most important is the host institution.
I have a question about the timeline that you showed. So let's say that I'm European, I want to go back to Europe with a reintegration fellowship. By the time, because there's a time gap between when, like, my application and when I'm notified and when I decided to start.
Yes.
In that frame, I'm still supposed to be here, right? Is there any?
No, you can already go to Europe, because basically, if you apply, for example, from here, you will not meet the 12 months at all. You know, if you apply, for example, I mean, you just kind of think about the 12 months. So the deadline is in September, for example, and you're still here, and we are June. So that is just, you know, I mean, you would be eligible to go anywhere in Europe. You see?
Because it's the 12 months out in the previous 5 years.
Exactly. Yeah. So basically, you know, you are now, if you move tomorrow, you're good to go. You're good to go, because it's going to be a lot less than 12 months, or if you want a reintegration, then 3 years, of course. So. Okay, so let's jump into the European Research Council grants, a big one, and this is the latest member of our funding family, as I call them. It was established in 2007, so they have not been part of the Horizon 2020 in many previous years, but they are the latest, and honestly, it's like, if I were a scientist, I would just like so go for it. So next time, I wanna see some hands. Anyone heard about the ERC grants? Okay. Anyone thinking of applying? Great. Okay. Yeah, well, thinking is a good thing, right? You should all raise your hand. So you're all thinking. Okay, fantastic. So let me jump directly into what it is and why these grants are so amazing. In terms of the budget, to give you an idea, if you remember, Marie Curie for 7 years has about 6 billion euros. The ERC has 13 billion euros for the period of 7 years. So from that, you can already see that it's a much larger infrastructure, much larger grant that they will offer. Excuse me. The ERCs are really looking for principal investigators that can become or are independent, that can lead their own lab, that can lead their own team, that have a brilliant, excellent, and the groundbreaking idea that has not been done before. So here you really have to get out of your comfort zone and you have to think big. Of course, there's going to be a high risk, but hopefully the high gain at the end of the project is something that you deserve and you're looking for. So if you've been doing your PhD and postdoc at a level, at a pace that was going this way, then with the ERC, you kind of have to jump up a little bit. When I talked to the ERC president not a long time ago, I'm like, Mr. President, what should I tell to the scientists about the ERC? What is it that you recommend, that you suggest? What should they think about? So his answer was, they have to dream a bit. So I'm like, okay, I will forward that message to you. So obviously, it's something that sometimes I like to say it's a 50-50 thing. So 50% you kind of know where you're going, and then the other 50% you just dream. You don't really know, but you want to get there. And then that's going to be a little bit of the blurry part. But that's what the ERC is looking for, really. You have to show a little bit of the methodology, obviously, how you would like to achieve that dream, even though it's perhaps not going to happen. But you have to have a nice, streamlined methodology showing your way, or what would you do differently than anyone else has ever done. So these are, and that's why, because these are big ideas, these are big projects and a lot of money, and we're going to talk about funding in a minute. That's why the ERC doesn't want you to spend 100% of your time on the project. So if you remember with the Marie Curie, if you go to Europe 2 years, you stay there for 2 years, and you are doing that as a full-time project. But with the ERC, it's only 50% of your time that you have to physically spend in your lab in Europe. So the lab or the office or the infrastructure basically should be created at a European institution. But then on the other hand, if you want to combine it with your current institution and with your current position, you can do that. So you can be 50% in Europe and then 50% here in the US. And trust me, it has been done. So I have seen projects with US PIs that are doing the 50-50. They're half leg here, or one leg here, and the other leg over there in Europe. What is really good about the ERCs is that it gives you a lot of flexibility, and it gives you a lot of autonomy in terms of your finances, your ideas, who you are going to choose as your team members. So the maximum length that you can apply for a project is 5 years. So again, it's different from the Marie Curie where you had 1 to 2. Here you have really up to 5 years because these are bigger projects. You choose your own team members. So if you are working on something that requires team members be based outside Europe, you can do that. So you can be very flexible with the budget. If you here at MD Anderson have an equipment, you have a machine that would be too expensive to buy for Europe or cannot be transported to Europe, and you need a person to be working on that machine here, you can justify that from the project. Because basically the money that you get, it's almost not limited by the ERC, meaning that you can divide your budget into the categories that you want to. If you want to do that for the equipment, for salaries, for travel, so it will be mainly you who will decide how this budget will be divided and what kind of flows, it will have. So that's also something to kind of consider: the team members, the flexibility, and the autonomy of the PI. So these are the grants that the ERC offers. The first three are the starting grant, consolidator grant, and the advanced grant. For these three, there can only be one PI, one principal investigator, and then your team members. So for the starting grant, it's 2 to 7 years past your PhD. And here, unfortunately, you have to have a PhD. So it's not the same as the Marie Curie. So there, it gives you a PhD or 4 years of full-time experience. Here, you have to have one to apply. And then the funding is, for the starting grant, is up to 2 million euros for up to 5 years. The consolidated grant is 7 to 12 years past your PhD, 2.75 million euros. And the advanced grant, you have to have a significant track record for at least 10 years to apply. And there you have an amount of 3.5 million euros for up to 5 years. The proof of concept is for those that have already received the grant. So since we don't have that case here yet, I'm going to skip it. And then something new old/new, synergy grants. When in 2012, there were synergy grants, but then ERC decided to take them off of the table. And now, as of this year, they are going to be reintroduced. So we are very excited about that opportunity, because with the synergy grants, you can have between 1 to 4 PIs. The rule is exactly the same. They have to be 50% minimum in Europe, and then the other half, they can be anywhere else in the world. And here we are looking at up to 10 million euros for up to 6 years. So those are larger projects with more PIs involved in it. The topic is bottom up. So again, we are not going to tell you the topic. We're not going to tell you the focus. You are going to decide, what you want to apply for. And the evaluation panels are really, really large, and a lot of panels are available for you.
Quick question on that, Vicky, with the topics. Is a technology development one of the possible topics? So if you're developing a technology, you're not creating a drug for cancer treatment, but you're developing technology for research use, for clinical application. Is that something that can be applicable?
Absolutely. If it's a groundbreaking technology, oh yeah. We have, something, as you know, all these projects and all these programs are open to the world. So just to reinforce, again, the flexibility of the ERC grants and then other projects, it's basically open to anyone. We have had a lot of American or US-based scientists that have applied for ERC grants, and they have been successful. And they either were already in Europe, or they moved from US to Europe. So you can do both. So within that funding that you could see, there is something hidden as well, which is called an additional startup funding for scientists moving to Europe. So you can use up to these amounts of money if you are moving from the US with your lab or, with your suitcases and everything over to Europe. So basically, that is something that is an eligibility point that you can, get money from the grant to use for your startup funding. So the grantee can keep affiliation with home institution outside Europe. In terms of, 50% is the physical being you in Europe. But in terms of the commitment to the project is a little bit different. So if you're applying for a starting grant, your commitment to the project is a minimum of 50%. If you apply for Consolidator, your commitment to the project is 40% of your time, and the advanced is only 30% of your time. But physically, the 50% is always there. But in terms of the commitment, you can see that you can deal with other projects, you can get other funding, you can, attract other grants or fellowships to the ERC. It will not tell you, like Marie Curie, it's a full salary. You should not be getting funding from anywhere else. Unless the institution wants to top up your salary, yes. But you as a researcher, you should not be getting more funding. But with the ERC, it's actually open. So, and ERC attracts more funding always because it's a very prestigious and very big funding opportunity. Excellent. Yes.
So you can like exceed grants or NSF things are totally out of the picture with Marie Curie.
With the Marie Curie, yes.
Not even working funding, like.
So basically, what can happen? The institution, if, for example, there's a big social security or health care bill, and they have to take it out of your salary, and then the end of the day, the netto amount is not sufficient for you to live. The institution that you are hosted by can decide to top up your salary, so they can do that. But you as an individual, you are not allowed to receive other funding.
No compensation, but for instance, materials or like things for the lab, computer time, all of these things, can you ask for grants for that?
I would have to check with my colleagues in Brussels to confirm if it's a yes or no. But yeah, we can communicate then on the...
Well, for instance, I have this Exceed grant and I would not be able to use it then because it's separate money.
Right. Yeah, I know that in terms of the salary, you're not able to get like any other, but with the equipment, I would check. I would just double check to make sure that that will work. Then I'm gonna go a little probably faster, just not to bore you too much. You have to have a host institution again in Europe for the ERC, so that's something that is going to be very similar to the Marie Curie. But in the case of the ERC, the host institution is not evaluated. So basically, the sole criteria for evaluation is excellence of you as a PI and your project. So, what you need from the host institution is only one letter saying in case you are successful and you receive the funding, they're going to employ you for the duration of the grant. They will provide you with the premise, with the venue, with the equipment that you are asking for. So that's basically the only commitment that you have with the host institution before you start, which then, tells you that you don't have to be employed by the European institution just yet. So the only time is when you actually start a grant, then they have to employ you. How to prepare and submit an ERC proposal. I think I've stressed it already here a couple times that you have to have that groundbreaking, really good, excellent, innovative idea in order to apply and have a successful project. The host institution is going to help you a lot with administration, with finances, because they will be managing the project for you. But you as an individual, the money is for you and it follows you. Meaning if something happens to your chosen host institution, or they're not treating you well, or they go bankrupt, or something happens, the money follows you. So they are portable, the grants are portable, so you can actually take the funding and you can go to another institution in a different country if something happens to your host institution, or they are not doing what they promised they will do. So the grant is portable, which is not the case with the Marie Curie. Here I wanted to show you a little bit of the panel. So they are divided into 3 domains. As you can see, we have life sciences, social sciences and humanities, physical sciences and engineering. So there are a lot of different panels that you can look into. And again, you are the one who chooses your panel. ERC likes interdisciplinarity. So if you think that your project can be evaluated by SH2 and LS6, then there is a possibility in the proposal to tick the second option. Okay, so you will basically be the one who chooses. Again, they are peer-reviewed. They are amazing evaluators and experts that are looking at the project. Now, in terms of the proposal itself, we have Part A and Part B. So the Part A is administrative. I'm not going to go into that right now, but I wanted to draw your attention to Part B, which has Part B1 and Part B2. With B1, you have to have something called an extended synopsis, which is only 5 pages. Then you have your CV and track record, 2 pages each. And then the Part B2 is the actual proposal, which has 15 pages. But I have to tell you something. They are submitted at the same time. So it's not like you submit your 5 pages first, and then you think about the other and submit that later. No. You submit both documents with the deadline. But with the first step of the evaluation, only your 5 pages are looked at. Okay, so you really have to make sure that it's your mini proposal. And they're going to be looked at by perhaps not super specialists or experts in your field. They might be a little bit more general. So you have to write it in a language that they will understand. And then once your proposal goes to step 2, that's when they read your 15 pages, and that's when they get more experts on board to look at the specific parts of your proposal. So that's something that I wanted you to keep in mind. Here is the full evaluation process, step 1 and step 2. So as I mentioned, step 1, they read the 5-page synopsis, and then there's a panel meeting of the chairs and the reviewers, and then they score your proposal. You can get the score A, B, or C. If it's A, it goes to step 2. If it's B, C, it's out of the round. And that's why I want to, stress one more time, you have to be sure, or you have to think that it's the right time for you to apply. Because if you get a score B or C, there are reapplication restrictions with the ERC. If you get a B, you have to wait a year to apply. If you get a C, you have to wait 2 years to reapply. So make sure that it's the right time for you and you're ready to do an ERC application. Once you get to step 2, then not only they read your full proposal, but they also do person-to-person interviews. With the starting grant and the consolidated grant, they pay your trip to Brussels, and you're going to have an interview with a panel, with a committee for 15 minutes. And out of that, 10 minutes is your walk of fame, so you talk. And then for the last 5 minutes, you get questions. You usually only know the head of the committee. You don't know the rest. Who is going to be there, from what field, from what area. So they can ask you really interesting questions. For example, why you? And not someone else. So it's a very important sweating experience, but definitely it's something that you have to prepare for, and that monologue that you're going to have for 10 minutes, it has to be like a drama act. Like you really have to, practice, and you have to write it down, and you time yourself, because they're not going to give you 10:05, they're going to give you 10.0, minutes. So that's just something that with the advanced grants, they don't do the interview anymore. Okay, I mentioned this, the criteria excellence of the PI and of the project. We don't evaluate your collaborators, your partners, your home or host institution. It's really you as a person and the project that you want to lead that will be the most important.
Could you go into detail about how track record versus proposal, how they stack up against each other?
Again, I'm not sure if...
So excellence of the PI, that's your track record mostly, what
Yes.
you've presented up to now, and then your proposal, what the...
50-50.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for the Marie Curie?
So the Marie Curie has several evaluation criteria, including, for example, the host institution, which is not part of here. So it's basically in the Marie Curie, if you remember, the evaluation was excellence, impact, and implementation. And then we had the 50%, 30%, and 20%. So that's how that also kind of plays into then the evaluation role. And you as a, of course, you as an individual who applies for a Marie Curie, you are going to be important. They are going to look at you, but it's not as much as they do with the ERC, because obviously it's a step lower, if I shall kind of say it that way. Just a couple of hints and tips how to, in terms of preparing an application. Of course, you have to start early. What's good about the ERC application system online, you can revisit it as much as possible. So you can start writing it online, and then, you know, until the deadline, until the closing of the deadline, you can go back as many times as you want to, and you can revisit the application, you can rewrite it, and it saves the latest version. Again, something that I want to draw your attention to, we also have the national contact points for ERC. So as we talked about them for the Marie Curie, we do have them for the ERC as well. So if you want to get more in-depth information, you can contact these centers, and they will be able to also give you a lot of information about the ERC. And I have last two slides, a little bit of the statistics. ERC does have a strong focus on young scientists. You probably don't see, this is the age. So we had an ERC grantee who received a grant when in the 27-year-old. Was the youngest, and the oldest about 75. So you can see that there is a huge range of people, of researchers that apply for these different grants. And more than 15,000 PhDs and postdocs are working in ERC teams. So as I mentioned, you pick your own team, you pick your own collaborators. So you can have technicians, PhDs, postdocs, so basically anyone from around the world that you would like to work with and build your team yourself. And then just to show you that basically ERC does attract researchers from outside Europe. So these are not the numbers for the PIs. These are not the nationalities of the PIs, but the nationalities of the team members, of the people that work. So for example, if you are not yet ready to apply for an ERC grant and you want to find out a little bit more about them and you want to work in that environment with a PI, you can apply to be part of the team. And oftentimes we have these vacancies on the EURAXESS jobs website. So you just go on the criteria European Research Council, and then you will see the vacancies that they offer to be part of a lab. So you get that direct interaction with a PI and with the project itself. So you can see that also US nationals have been very successful. In terms of the calls, as I mentioned, the new work program is going to come out in September. So in a couple of months, we are going to have the dates. But I wanted to show you what was happening in 2017. As you can see, the advanced grant is the only one that is open. It closes 31st of August. So again, there's still some time, but if you haven't started working on it yet, it might be just a bit too late. The synergy grants are going to open in July, close in November, and then we expect that the starting grants are going to open this summer. So they opened in July 2016, so we think that they are going to be very, very similar for 2017, with a deadline fall around October 2017. So we don't have the exact date yet, but it's going to be coming out in a couple of months. So please, get our flash notes so you get the information from firsthand. And with that, I'll leave you with a couple of useful links for you to click on later on. And I would like to thank you for your attention and for really being here and having this interactive session with me and listening to me until the end. Thank you so much.